So this is the digital version of what I am presenting at the NJASA Techspo 16 conference. My name is David Walsh, if you don't know me, and I've been flipping for about a year and a half. I've known about flipping for longer than that. And my hope here is to show you or give you a little bit of insight into what I call the power of the flip. What the flip has done for me is given me kind of a new way to invigorate my teaching. It's allowed me to do a lot of things that I really wouldn't have done otherwise, and I think also it's changed kind of my philosophy on education in general. And so to give you an idea, I actually started blogging on my own accord. Not anybody else has told me to blog. And I have flippinged.net. It's my own site on flipping. I post philosophy. I post things about how I flip. I post things about flipping education, ways to flip, just whatever. So it's kind of a labor of love. So if you're interested, check it out. You can even sign up. But my main point for being here is that I would guess, not even my main point, but I wouldn't have even started blogging about education if it weren't for flipping. And so the flip is just really powerful. And as you can see, I'm a high school chemistry teacher. And I teach at Collingswood High School, which is just outside of Philadelphia on the other side of the Delaware River in New Jersey. So what I'm going to do for the live audience, although I can't do it for you, is I'm going to give them away. I'm going to give away a T-shirt to my school. But you can go through the same exercise that I'm going to do. I'm going to give everybody 10 seconds. And in those 10 seconds, I am going to ask you out there in the audience in Digital World Land, who lost Super Bowl 25? Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Okay, so you're going to find out that the Buffalo Bills did. But that's the point, that most of you did what I did and got out a cell phone, and in that cell phone you just looked in who lost Super Bowl 25. Super easy. And I think that changes the way that teachers teach and how educators need to educate. So if you're interested, if you're watching this if you're watching this as it's posted on January 29th, then you can participate in today's meet. There's also a Twitter chat I've set up that asks some good questions if you want to participate in that with my audience and or with the people that are going to watch this. So there's a lot of ways that you can interact with me and with this presentation. And I also have to give kind of a shout out to this guy. I know it's kind of strange to do this, but I would say that Dan is kind of my partner in crime, partner in tech, and he really, I would say that our journeys are mainly parallel educationally and tech-wise, so we have a lot of similar viewpoints on things. And he was a biology teacher, and this is the spoiler alert, as Dan is now my district's tech coach. And so we got to know each other very well before he was the tech coach, and now that he is our district's tech coach, he's maintained contact with me, and I think that we go well together. And so he's a great follow on Twitter. He's got all sorts of things that you can connect with him. I highly recommend connecting with him. But Dan and I's journey kind of starts 6 years ago. So imagine here we are in our classrooms, and it may have been 7 years ago, we're discussing how the heck can we get cell phones to not be used. There was a school rule in our district. I'm just a high school teacher, so I can't necessarily speak for the elementary schools, but the school rule was that cell phones needed to be off and in student lockers. Well, we were frustrated at trying to have to enforce that rule because we agreed with it at the time. Cell phones were relatively young, smartphones, people didn't understand them, people didn't get them, and, it was technology that we just didn't get. And so people have a tendency to overestimate the harm that technology can do, and people can definitely underestimate the good that it can do. So here we were. He came back from a conference in Georgia, and he was like, I met this teacher, and this teacher had a cell phone jammer. And that cell phone jammer, you can still buy them today, blocks wireless signals in and out of a small radius, small area. And, they're about $100. Legal, I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. But regardless, this is where we were about 6 years ago. Long discussions about how are we going to get kids to pay attention more in class, stop using their phones. We were sick and tired of students not paying attention to us. And there was that school rule. Well, it turned out what we decided to do was something completely opposite. What we decided to do was ignore the school rule. We allowed students to use cell phones kind of whenever they wanted. After all, we kind of understood that cell phones were going to be a tool for students to use. We didn't understand where it was going at the time, but we said, hey, students are going to use their cell phones. I'm not going to fight this battle. This is a battle I'm not going to choose to engage in even. And so students learned in my classroom that they could use their cell phones. And that actually helped the problem. Students were using their cell phones less. They didn't feel like it was dangerous to use their cell phones. And so we really started. So this is where I would say that we started. So fast forward like 7 years, and here we are in today's day and age. And what we have to say is that knowledge is cheap, I would say. This is an Amazon Echo, but there's other technology out there that can do the same thing that Echo can. Google can do OK Google. And then there's Siri. But what this is ask this thing a question from Amazon, and what happens is that it will answer that question. And so if there's a device that is connected to the internet that can answer that question, whatever question it is, who lost Super Bowl XXV, then hasn't the role of the teacher changed because of it? We no longer see ourselves, Dan and I, as key holders or gatekeepers to the information in our classrooms. Okay, and I don't think any teacher can anymore. If a kid will find information despite my best efforts, so I cannot withhold information from my students. It's just the way it is. Okay, so it's important to understand that technology is always evolving. Okay, and probably the only constant in the world is change, and the older I get, the more I realize that. So it's very interesting, like when I heard this quote from a presenter earlier this month, I said I need to have that because this is exactly it. And just so you know, this quote is very old. It's very, very old. Okay, so we need to break out of our shell. Just because it's the way that we were taught, the way that we were shown, the way that that's always been done, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just because it's the way that we've done it in the past doesn't mean it's the way that we should do it again. And I believe that. Hold on a second. Let me take a break. Oh, nope, that's good. Okay. Let me back up just really quick because I'm not sure if you can actually see that. that quote. Okay, so now you see the quote. Okay, so sorry about that. So this all leads me to my first take-home message. I have two big take-home messages. And the first one is that technology has fundamentally changed education. Teachers no longer are the gatekeepers or the key holders for information. 100 years ago, that was true. People looked to teachers for as the bastions of knowledge. Well, we still are bastions of knowledge. I'm not trying to diminish what we know, but what I'm saying is we are not the only one anymore. We are one of just myriad examples of different ways for people to get information. And if YouTube is easier to get information, they're going to go there and not to me. Okay? So technology has fundamentally changed education. And in doing so, I think it's important for us to talk about leveraging technology in the classroom. So one way, the way that I have found that's the most powerful for me, is flipping my classroom, and here's what we need to do. Here's a brief video on what flipping is.
Regardless of ability level, each student receives the exact same information at the exact same pace. As Ms. Jackson presents the same material, the students respond differently. Tommy gets it, while Allison is bored, and Maria is lost. At the end of the day, these same students head home. While at home, they sit at the kitchen table doing their homework and trying to remember what Ms. Jackson said. Students like Tommy make it most of the way through the homework, while others, like Allison, find it easy and fly through it. At the same time, students like Maria get frustrated and need some extra help. Ms. Jackson recognizes that students have different needs and would love to work individually with each student, but this requires time and resources that her school does not have. One solution to this problem is the flipped classroom. Here's what it looks like. While at home, students sit in their rooms watching videos of the lesson that Ms. Jackson assigned. Tommy is still able to work at his normal pace. Allison is no longer bored because now she can use this new technology to fast forward through the easy material. And Maria is no longer frustrated because she can review the material that she didn't understand while pausing and rewinding. When she really gets stuck, she can get help from her classmates. New technology platforms like Moodle and Modo make it easy for her to chat online with her classmates. Just as the homework is different, the classroom is different as well. Instead of standing in front of the room speaking, Ms. Jackson walks around the room. She checks in with Tommy as he works collaboratively with some students. She pushes Allison further with some more challenging work. And she helps Maria with the pieces that she still doesn't quite get. In the traditional way, the teacher stands between the students and the knowledge. But with the flipped classroom model, students have direct access to the knowledge, and the teacher serves as a coach, mentor, and guide, helping the students access this knowledge. The flipped classroom leverages technology in a way that lets both Ms. Jackson and the students make the most of their time and efforts.
So that's the flipped classroom model, okay, where we leverage technology to maximize time with the students and learning with the students. The flip model is, to me, very, very powerful. Okay. So what happened? Let me move my camera over here. Okay. And so What ends up happening with the flip is that you end up, if you know Bloom's taxonomy, you end up pushing kind of the lower order skills, the remembering and the defining and those sorts of things out of the classroom, where the students can actually learn that stuff on their own. And that allows you the one-on-one time with the students to do the harder things. Okay, John Bergman once told me that, yeah, I'm name dropping, but no, John Bergman once told me you do the light work outside of class and the heavy work in the class. In a traditional classroom, that's not the case. You teach them the lesson, you teach them the information, and you say, go do all the hard stuff outside of class. The flipped classroom, they do that. They do the hard work in the class with the teacher, and they do the light work, the easy stuff, outside of class. And so my own flip journey started when our district decided to go to one-on-one Chromebooks, in which Chromebook wireless computer based is Google, right? It's all Google stuff. And so if you know Google, you know how awesome it is. Okay. Google, I remember texting my wife completely on that day that I went to a Google training that it said Google is taking over the world, and they really are. I didn't quite understand it, but now I do. Okay, so the summer before I flipped, I went to an in-district training on Google and what Google can do, okay, in preparation for our one-to-one Chromebooks getting launched. And again, Dan Whalen, at that point, biology teacher, was showing me all the neat things you can do. Before that moment, I didn't know how I was going to flip. Okay, I had no idea how it was going to happen, but I kind of wanted to flip. But as soon as Google crystallized in my head about the idea of what it can do, sharing sites and word processing and all the things that you want to do collaboratively, it completely crystallized. So that's when I decided that I was going to flip, okay, for real, like 100% jump off into the deep end. And so what I did is I went out and I got a subscription to EduCanon, and I used Google Classroom. And if you have the presentation, just know that you can click these links and they actually work. And you can go to these sites. But EduCanon is a way to get videos from YouTube, and then you take that YouTube video and then you can embed questions. Okay. I tested out a couple of different ones of these, but I like EduCanon the best. There's Edpuzzle, and there's also the Blend Space. The beauty of EduCanon, my students told me this, that like the very first week when I asked them, is that EduCanon doesn't allow you to fast forward through the videos and get to the questions. The other sites may. They may have changed that since, but so I just became I adopted EduCanon right from the beginning. But I decided I was not going to ever make my own videos because there's so much good chemistry stuff out there that why would I need to make my own videos if somebody else can do it better? Okay, that's going to eventually lead into kind of my second philosophical, or my second part, which is more philosophical. But once you make the videos, then I needed a way to serve them to people. Okay, I'd come up with something to do. So EduCanon creates a link, and you can put that link anywhere you can put a normal link. You could put it in a Google Doc, you could do whatever. But Google had just launched Google Classroom, and so I got on and I created a classroom. And so what I did is I had a whole bunch of videos, and then I would post them in Google Classroom, and life would be good. Okay, and this is what my class looked like. Okay, I made, in my honors chemistry class, I had 5 units, and I made a spreadsheet of all of this. So if you want to see what this looks like, again, we can click on it. So I'm going to click on this, and that's going to pop up. It's going to take a second, but so here's what it looked like. It was this big, like, complicated thing, and it gave all the assignments that they had to do. Once they figured out what they had to do, they would check it off, and I would give them a copy, and I would keep a copy, and I would check things off, and I had the point values so that everything knew, and that way everybody could keep track of everything. And there it was, okay? All my assignments, and you'll notice this is the exact document that I used. You'll notice that there wasn't any of these that was my own video, okay? That's the way it was. Khan Academy is a great resource. Science teachers, if you haven't heard of Khan Academy, go there. Math teachers, Khan Academy. And then if you're a chemistry teacher specifically, there's a YouTube channel that Tyler DeWitt, he gave a TED Talk about stuff. But I can't, those are all just resources specific to chemistry. But anyways, I found all of these things, and they did a great job teaching my students chemistry. Okay, now, this went on for about the first 3, 4, 5 months of my class. Okay, now, in those first 3, 4, 5 months of my class, I realized that this was a lot of work. Okay, let me go back. Okay, doing this, setting all of this up, getting everything done beforehand so the kids can kind of go through this and get to the test. It was a lot of work beforehand. I saw the value in it immediately, but it was a lot of work. And then that guy, Dan, came up to me and he said, "What are you going to do? Are you going to ever make your own videos?" And I said, "No, there's no reason to." I gave him that whole spiel. And this is one of the things. You always have to listen to that guy, that voice in your head. And Dan is always that voice in my head. What are you going to do to make it better? Okay. And so I went to a conference. Okay. I went to a little one-day PD about flipping your class. And it was probably the single most influential PD that I went to, mainly because it showed me the power of the flip. It showed me what the flip can do. Like I was sold on it, but after this PD that I went to about what the flip can do for me and its power, I was sold 100%. And part of that video was, or not video, part of that seminar, that training, that PD, whatever you want to call it, was making your own videos. And there it is, Dan Whalen telling me to make my own videos, asking me to make my own videos. And then this guy says you can make your own videos. And then he showed us how easy it was. And that's when Screencast-O-Matic came in, okay, which is what I'm using to make this video right now. Okay, so Screencast-O-Matic, great resource to make your own videos. But I wanted to know, hey students, what is better? Would you rather listen to Salman Khan from Khan Academy or Tyler DeWitt, or like what would you rather do? Overwhelmingly, the students in my classroom wanted to hear me teach them. Okay. Now, mind you, I hadn't really stood up and given a lecture, traditionally taught them all year, but they still preferred me over those other experts. So I continued to make my own videos. And so now I make all my own content. I'm not completely finished making my own content. I'll never be completely finished. Flipping is a slow process, but it's still valuable. But so Dan was right. I should make my own content. Okay. And what Screencast-O-Matic does is it allows you to very easily make a screencast of whatever your computer is seeing, and it runs on the web. It's a web-based thing, or you can download a copy and you can run it right off your computer. And either one will work. Now, the only drawback to Screencast-O-Matic is that they don't work on Chromebooks, but there is a version of webcasting software, or not webcasting, excuse me, screencasting software that you can use on Chromebooks, and that's called Screencastify. And it's an extension, it's free, and you can do the same things with Screencastify that you can do with Screencast-O-Matic. But now that I was making all these videos, I needed some place to serve them, okay? And so Google Classroom is there, and that's fine, okay? But I thought I needed something more. And yes, I did need something more. What I needed was a a learning management system. So I went to Schoology. Okay, Schoology, I could upload my videos. I could do all the things that I wanted to do that Google Classroom can offer. And I can do even more because I can create quizzes and tests, and I can control how quickly or how slowly they go through the material as they're watching it. It's not just here's a link, here's a link, here's a link, then they can click on it. You have way more control in a learning management system than you would in a Google Classroom. Now, I do use Google Classroom still. Google Classroom is probably by far and away the best distribution site that there is for a Chromebook district. Okay, if you are already a Google Apps for Education district and you're not using Classroom, no matter what role you are, whether you're an administrator giving information out to your teachers or whether you're a teacher giving information out to your students or to your parents or whatever, if you're not using Google Classroom, then you need to start, because the way that it allows you to distribute information and get it back, it's amazing. Okay, Schoology does a good job at that, but Classroom I find does a better job. So, Schoology definitely an awesome. It was a great find for me. And this is what Schoology is. There it is. Okay, Schoology. Here's the first thing that kids get to do. If they memorize this, they get extra credit. And then there's some administrative stuff. You know, that quote unquote first day stuff. Don't tell Dave Burgess, Teach Like a Pirate, that I do this stuff on the first day. It's not really first day stuff, but it's, you know, like syllabus and parent information and all that stuff that you need in order to, it's the business of running a classroom. Okay, but then we do all this stuff. Here's observations, here's tests, and it's this, it looks like a hard drive. And students go in and they see this, and you can see they must complete set completion rules. You can email people, you can do all sorts of things. So very powerful tool. Okay. But I have to take a moment because I've been really kicking this idea around, okay? I have a class. Oh, let me preface this by saying that, you know, I think that there's value in having this set up in this sort of linear fashion. You know, a lot of chemistry can kind of build on each other. Math especially, you know, this first concept would have to build on this concept, would have to build on this concept, on down the line. But what if you have a class that really the concepts don't have to build on each other? Okay, what is that going to look like? In a flipped environment, I think it's going to look a little more interesting. So I think that I want to try to figure out how this is going to work. Now, this is my astronomy class. Let me move this guy over here now, okay? And so this is what I want to do in my astronomy class. Now, instead of serving it linearly, and again, I see the benefit of doing that. Schoology does that very well. What I want to do is I want to say, hey, listen, I give this one semester-long class where they have to design a mission plan to go to some sort of scientifically interesting target. Okay, and they have 6 sections. They have to figure out where they're going to go, how it's going to be. There's a bunch of other stuff over here. You can click this link. It's not completely done, embarrassingly enough, but you get the idea. There's 6 requirements, and eventually they have to give me a presentation. But the point is they can get this information any way they want. They don't have to do it linearly or non-linearly. They can do it however they want. So I want to kind of make these things clickable links so that if they want to go to Mars, they can click Mars, learn information about Mars, and then present why they want to go to Mars and how they're going to go to Mars right here. And so all of this, though, would have never come out of my traditional classroom where I was kind of the guy in the front of the class, where I was sage on the stage, okay? This forces me to become kind of the guide on the side. So kind of where I want to go next is for my astronomy class, and maybe even for some of my further, what do I want to say, some of my more heady topics in my chemistry classes or even a physics project. I kind of want to do that. And how am I going to get there? Well, I'm going to try using some of these apps. Now, these are apps that I have used and experienced, so I can actually speak about them, okay? Now, here's the neat thing, okay? Technology is everywhere. Especially in this day and age, it has fundamentally changed education. So if I'm going to flip, I want a complete lesson. Now, I can't talk about this company enough, okay? Style Education, they're big in Australia. They're not so big in the United States, but look at what Style can do, okay? It's probably going to ask me to log on, so I apologize. This is my recorded version, so I don't necessarily have to get it all going here. But so good timing here, 30 minutes in. Okay, so here's Style. Okay, and okay, let's see. Yeah, the username, log me back in. So here's the thing. Here's this lesson in science. Okay, Style app. Style is an online, all-inclusive lesson generator. Now I know that they are out there, but this is the one that I feel is like the best. It allows you to build a lesson from soup to nuts. You can insert pictures and videos, links and questions, and you can do this. And one of the neatest features here is that they have this interactive canvas that allows you to take these things and move them around. Okay, and then once you get done, okay, you can interact with the lesson in a lot of ways. So I'm, again, leveraging the technology to do what I would normally do in the class outside of the class, because the students can do that. So here's where you can take this and you can circle the moths, okay, and you can learn about all of that stuff. Once you're done, okay, and you can see how big this can get, you submit it to the teacher. Imagine if that was this right here. Or if that was these individual things. Go through the lesson. You want to know about Mars and why it makes a good topic to explore? Here's the lesson. Okay. If you don't want to learn about Mars, go to the moon or go to Saturn's moon Titan. Okay. And so I think that that's the power of Style. It's an all-in-one lesson creator. Okay. Now, Seesaw is a great app for creating a digital portfolio. A lot of elementary teachers are doing this, where students will take a picture of whatever document they want, and then they will upload it to their Seesaw, and then by the end of the year, they have a whole portfolio of work to show people. Okay? Now, in conjunction with Seesaw is this shadow puppet. Okay, and this is cool. This is a tool that my students use. And I'm trying to get to the thing that they do. And so what Shadow Puppet does is it takes pictures that you upload, that you take with your smartphone, okay? And when you take them with your smartphone, that you can put them in the app, and then you can narrate over them.
We'll be using a mixture of 50% alcohol and 50% water to light a towel on fire.
And so this is a student of mine.
The towel being dipped into the mixture and dampened.
So what I did is I gave a student my cell phone, and I said, here, take some pictures of this, and then I'm going to have you do something with it afterwards. So I did this demo. That's my hand. I'm doing the demo. And
the towel is then taken out of the mixture and lit on fire, and produces a very bright flame. The towel continues to burn, but eventually the flames start to die off, but lo and behold, the towel is still undamaged. And as demonstrated by our brave Chang, he touches the towel and doesn't get harmed either.
And so anything that you want to do that you can create, like changes over time, I think that that's a great idea for students. Anything, your math class, take a picture of a math problem one time, and then the second time, and then like the first step, and then do the second step, take a picture, third step, take a picture, narrate over the pictures, send it out, or have the students do it, okay? Instead of having them go to the board, have them create one of these shadow puppets, okay? And then Voxer, I can't say enough about Voxer, because Voxer has been my like virtual what do I want to say? My virtual teacher's lounge. And so I'm in a couple of Voxer chat groups that allow me to, where we talk about flipping, we talk about blogging, and it's just a whole bunch of connected educators talking about what they're passionate about. And so Voxer is just a communication app that allows whoever is voxing, whoever has the app, to talk to each other. It records your message and then it posts it, and then anybody who happens to be in the room can listen to it. Or if you want to direct vox somebody, you can talk to them individually too. So it's an awesome capability. Okay, and then Instagrok is kind of my I guess I don't want to say next generation search engine, but this is a neat tool for students to use. Okay, I only just heard about Instagrok maybe 2 months ago, and it's crazy. It's awesome, because what it does is it gives you information in a kind of a better way. Google is kind of a linear, and I don't know why I'm against this linear thing. I'm not against linear, but I just think that there's other ways to do things. You don't have to do everything the way that we've always done it. So when we're searching the internet, why do we need to search it in a linear fashion? So let me pick a topic here, okay, that's near and dear to my heart. Let's do atomic structure. And then we're going to grok it, okay? And then watch what happens. So instead of a linear search, what it does is it gives you this mind concept map, okay? And so here is key facts that it takes from websites, and you can go to websites. Here's a list of websites. Here's videos. You can play things. And then let's say you want to know more about the periodic table. Well, now I'm going to grok the periodic table, and it gives you all this information about the periodic table. So it visually is showing the search that you are doing, okay, as opposed to kind of linearly taking you from one page to another. And I think that that's very powerful. Another thing that it has on here, and I don't know, maybe a quick formative tool, but it has these quizzes. So it's like, hey, look, okay, and it just fill in the blank multiple choice quiz. And notice I didn't do anything. It just pops the quiz up there. Okay. Now, I have found that the quizzes aren't necessarily the best, because it's just taking keywords and key concepts from the search and then plugging it in. But at any rate, it's still there, and who knows, right? And it also has a journal feature. But these are powerful tech tools that you need to realize that has made education change. Technology has fundamentally changed education. But now that I've beaten that dead horse, let me switch gears a little bit, but it's related. Well, if technology has fundamentally changed education, I think it's important that this has led me to a change in my own mindset, okay? And what the change in the mindset is, it stems from this idea that in 2009, there were 3 million students who graduated from high school, okay? 3 million students. 70% of them, roughly 2 million students, took high school chemistry. Now, all teachers have egos. All humans have egos. It's human nature. To stand in front of a classroom and tell students how much you know is awesome, and then they like, whoa, you're so great because you know so much. It's a huge ego trip. But I had to put my own ego in check to some degree, because I needed to realize that there were other people out there that could teach chemistry and do chemistry better than me. And that's a big ego knock, because I'm going to be the only high school teacher, chemistry teacher. I may be their only chemistry teacher at all that they'll ever have in their life. And I'm not necessarily the best that they have. And that's a big blow to the ego. But it's also kind of a motivating factor in my own ego because I want to give them the best experience that I can. And the best experience that I can give them is going to involve me doing as much chemistry with them as I possibly can. When students walk into my classroom, what do they want to do? What do I see that they want to do? Do they want to sit in a desk and take notes about chemistry, or do they want to actually do it? Well, they want to actually do the chemistry. So if they actually want to do the chemistry, why am I spending time with them one-on-one or 24-on-1 showing them the notes? Why can't I just spend time with them doing chemistry? If I have 20 kids in my class and my class is 40 minutes long, that means I get 2 minutes per student. 2 minutes per student. And I'm going to waste that doing lower order thinking stuff, making them remember, teaching them definitions? No. I want them to be doing chemistry, synthesizing, and doing those things. And that's important. Super important. And when you really think about it, really is mind-blowing. And then you get to this statistic. And this is very specific to me in my field, but still. 0.38% of all the high school graduate, or of all the college graduates in 2009, 0.38% graduated with a degree in chemistry. That is 2 students in my school, 2 students in my school every 3 years. Okay? So why am I really so worried about making sure that they know how to balance chemical equations when I can be spending time with them, getting to know them? It's kind of like this idea of a 20% time genius hour, whatever you want to call it. I want to teach students. I don't want to teach content. Okay? I would much rather engage a student in meaningful work than to give them something useless. Because only 2 kids every 3 years is going to go off and be a chemist. So, yeah. Talk about ego check. So it really begs the question, what does my classroom need to look like? What does learning need to look like? And I talked about how learning kind of looks in my class, but it looks different for every student. Every student is different. And so that's what I mean. I have to teach my students. I can't teach content. I have to focus on my student, that kid right there. What does he need, or what does she need? Okay? And so at the center of my whole educational philosophy has been flipping and what it has unlocked for me. Everything from due dates all the way over to students playing the game of school. Okay? All of this is super, crazy. Let's talk about from a student perspective. Okay? Homework. The homework in my flipped classroom has changed completely. Students now, instead of doing problems or writing up a lab at home, they now interact with videos that I make at home. But doesn't that lead me to wonder what the point of homework is and what are we trying to do by homework? Okay, those are questions that I think really need to be asked. And then choice. Wow, well, if homework needs to change, what's the power of choice? And of course, good teaching is always going to have meaningful homework and provide student choice. But what really is the pedagogical importance of choice? Somebody told me that if you give a student one assignment, that means they have a 50-50 chance of doing it. They're either going to do it or not do it. Just by giving them 3 options, now it's 75-25. You've reduced their choices of not doing it by half, because there's 3 options to do it and only 1 option to not do it. So it's 75% they are going to do it, and only 25% they won't. So why not give them choice? And doing everything online allows my students to have that choice. Now, I don't give them choices on everything. As the teacher, I have to, kind of guide them through things, and sometimes they just have to do something. But I've offered a lot more choice in my room, and the technology has allowed me to do that. And I can see how my philosophy is just saying, well, why don't I just give students the choice on almost everything? And then that leads into grading. Like, what's the point of grading something? What does a grade tell? Now, I get it. Grades are indoctrinated into the world. For a different presentation that I did a little research, and it's like they go back to like 1780s into Harvard, and but grading is a communication tool. And so if I know a student gets it, regardless of what their performance on the test is, that grade should reflect if they get it. And grades also should not be used as a punishment. So if a kid turns in something late and they get a 50% because it's late, you're not assessing the student's knowledge, you're assessing their compliance. And so why grade something if it's not going to be a true sense of how well they know something? Okay? And parents, that's what they use grades for. And we do as teachers. Just go look at my observation scores. I want above a 3. I'm a Danielson district. I want to get above a 3. I'm not going to be grumpy if I don't get above a 3, but, grading is a communication tool. So, that's what it is. It's more from the student perspective in terms of engagement. By allowing them choice and doing those things, the students are going to be more engaged. Students in my class learn more deeply and are more engaged in the material, and then it becomes their own. And, I talked about due dates, but if you have due dates in your classroom, I believe that all we're doing is reinforcing that idea of the game of school. That school isn't for learning, it's just kind of the thing that we have to do to get to the next thing that we have to do. And that's the game of school. What's the point of going to school if all they get is a great, teacher, Kevin Brookhauser, he was the keynote today at Techspo, says, there's an unwritten rule of teaching, of education. Teachers feed the students stuff, students regurgitate, and then they forget. That's the game of school. Let's eliminate the game of school. Let's make that knowledge their own. Let's encourage them to be more invested in it. And flipping has done that for me, and I can see it with my students. In terms of teacher, I've really looked at what the purpose of my class is. And I've alluded to it before. I even said before that my role as a teacher is to teach. I teach students now. I don't teach the content. I don't worry about if I'm going to get through the whole curriculum. Okay? Now, other people may worry about, meaning my administrators may worry if I'm getting through the whole curriculum. But I'm teaching students. And so I become the lead learner. If it takes a student twice as long to get through a particular lab or a particular assessment or whatever, that's okay, because I want them to feel like they can do it and they're successful. Which leads into, what's the purpose of my class? If I'm going to be the lead learner, if I'm going to be the guy instead of the sage on the stage, the guide on the side, the purpose of my class is for students to learn how to learn. That's it. Students, I want to teach students how to become lifelong learners, and chemistry is my tool for that. And that's That's the power of the flip. That's what the flip has given me. I see that educational philosophy piece I get. Administratively, and I'm presenting this to a room full of administrators, I've looked at curriculum design. I have written the curriculum for my chemistry class at least twice, okay, for my flipped chemistry class, okay, before I flipped it. And I struggled always, what's the first unit? We're introducing atoms. We used to call it atoms, and now we call it matter and measurement. But then I realized that what I want the kids to take out of that is that big idea of observation. And the tools for which observation is done in my class is by using atoms and atomic theory and matter and measurement, okay? Like, that's the big idea. So when I design my curriculum now, I come up with the big ideas, and then I have essential questions that I ask, and I realized at that moment that I'm just doing backwards design and universal design so that I can access all my kids' stuff. I'm differentiating all of those things that are the trademarks of great teaching I am doing because that's what the flip has given me. Has given me insight to kind of what the power that technology can give me and give the students. Okay, and I have some other ideas about how to flip professional development and how to flip meetings. And so just very quickly, let me relate a story. Every year in New Jersey, we have a standardized test. And that standardized test, we have to get trained on how to proctor it. Okay, and so an administrator walks into the room and will talk for a whole staff meeting about how to proctor the PARCC exam. Yay. Isn't that exciting? You got to do this, you can't do this, you got to do this, you can't do this, do this, follow the directions, read the directions. And I get it. And I've been teaching for 13 years, and I've heard the same song and dance 13 years. And I get why they need to do it. It's fine. But isn't it more valuable to have one-on-one time with your staff? So if you could record this, much like I'm recording this presentation right now, if you could record it, like, hey, staff, you out there, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, here's the website. You can do all this screencasting. And then in that meeting, what you can do is you can have a more meaningful conversation with your staff about, hey, here's some strategies that we can use to help the test go along. Or what questions do you have about the test? Now you have flipped the staff meeting and you've modeled to your staff why the flip is important. What can the flip give to you? And that, I think, is valuable. So all of this to say is that what the flip has given me is a change in mindset. And none of this means that I was a horrible teacher before, and none of this has to necessarily come from flipping your class. I get it. All of this is what good teaching looks like, choices and assignments, making sure you differentiate, backwards design, like all of that is what good teaching looks like. But, if I was going to be okay just traveling that highway for my mediocre career, I think that, by being introduced to the flip and me seeing what it can do for students and for education in general, I think that change in mindset is valuable, and we just need to embrace it. We need to embrace the flip and what it can do for your students, what it can do for education. And it's because technology has fundamentally changed education that I have reached this change in mindset. So if you have any questions, I can answer them at these resources here. And then I do have this. If you want to receive what I call flip tips, you can scan this QR code right here. It goes to a Google Doc, and you give me your email address. And since you're watching this on the computer, yes, it will work on a computer. Okay, this is a QR code. Get a QR scanner, download it, scan it, fill out the Google form. Now, if you want a copy of this presentation, because I do have a lot of I do have a lot of links in my presentation. You can just click or highlight this, and this will take you to my presentation, and then in your QR reader it'll save a link, and you can share that however you want. But there it is, and that's what I have seen. That's what I have seen as the power of the flip. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to hearing from you.